The morning sun streamed through the tall windows of Chicago O'Hare International Airport as 17-year-old twins Aria and Luna walked through the busy terminal. Their matching purple backpacks bounced slightly with each step, and both girls couldn't stop smiling. This wasn't just any ordinary trip. They were heading to New York City to visit 3 different colleges, and the excitement was written all over their faces. "I still can't believe Dad got us first-class tickets," Aria whispered to her sister as they walked past the crowded food court. The smell of fresh coffee and breakfast sandwiches filled the air around them. Luna adjusted the strap of her backpack and grinned. "He said we deserved to travel in style for such an important trip. I've never sat in first class before. Do you think they really give you warm towels?" The twins had been planning this college visit trip for months. Their junior year was almost over, and soon they'd need to make some big decisions about their future. Aria wanted to study engineering, while Luna was more interested in business. Despite their different interests, they did everything together and couldn't imagine being at colleges too far apart. As they made their way through the terminal, other travelers rushed past them with rolling suitcases and coffee cups. The airport was busier than usual, with long lines at security and crowds of people waiting at gates. But none of that bothered the girls. They had arrived early, passed through security without any problems, and now they just needed to find their gate. "Gate B12, Luna read from her phone. "That way." They followed the signs through the terminal, passing shops selling travel pillows and magazines, restaurants with breakfast specials, and families saying goodbye to each other. The girls had flown before, but usually in regular economy seats for family vacations. This felt different. More grown-up. More like the start of their adult lives. When they finally reached Gate B12, both girls stopped and looked around. The gate area was filled with business travelers typing on laptops, families with small children, and college students like themselves. Their flight to New York wasn't scheduled to board for another hour, so they found 2 empty seats near the window and settled in to wait. "Look at that plane," Aria said, pointing out the window at a large aircraft being prepared for departure. Ground crew members in bright orange vests were loading luggage and checking the engines. "I wonder if that's ours." Luna pulled out her phone and showed her sister their boarding passes on the screen. "Flight 447 to LaGuardia. First class, seats 2A and 2B. This is really happening." The hour passed quickly as the girls chatted about their college visits, shared snacks from their backpacks, and watched the constant activity outside the windows. Other passengers began gathering near the gate as boarding time approached. The twins noticed the usual mix of travelers you'd see on any flight to New York. Business people in suits, tourists with cameras, students with college sweatshirts. When the gate agent finally announced that boarding would begin soon, Aria and Luna stood up and gathered their belongings. They watched as the agent, a middle-aged woman with short blonde hair and a tired expression, began setting up her computer and checking paperwork. "First class and priority boarding will begin in just a few minutes," the agent announced over the intercom. Her voice sounded routine, like she'd made the same announcement hundreds of times before. The twins moved closer to the boarding area, their first-class tickets ready on their phones. Around them, other first-class passengers began forming a loose line. Most were older business travelers with expensive-looking carry-on bags and confident expressions. "Good morning. Welcome aboard," the gate agent said as the first passengers approached her podium. She scanned their boarding passes quickly and waved them through toward the jet bridge. Aria and Luna watched the process, getting more excited with each passing minute. They'd studied their boarding passes multiple times, made sure their phones were charged, and double-checked that they had their IDs ready. Everything was perfect. "Next," the gate agent called out. The twins stepped forward together, their phones held out with their boarding passes displayed clearly on the screens. The agent looked at the phones, then up at the girls, then back at the phones again. Her expression changed slightly, though the twins couldn't quite tell what she was thinking. "Could you step aside for a moment?" the agent said, her voice different now, less friendly than it had been with the previous passengers. "Is something wrong?" Luna asked, confusion clear in her voice. "I just need to verify something," the agent replied, not really answering the question. "Could you move over there, please?" She pointed to an area off to the side of the boarding gate. Aria and Luna looked at each other, unsure what was happening. They'd watched dozens of passengers board ahead of them without any problems. Their boarding passes looked exactly the same as everyone else's. Their flight information was correct. They had valid photo IDs. But we have first-class tickets, Arya said, holding up her phone again. See? Seats 2A and 2B. The agent barely glanced at the screen. I understand that, but I need you to step aside while I check something in the system. The girls reluctantly moved to where she had pointed, watching as more passengers continued to board the plane. A businessman in an expensive suit approached the podium right after them. The same agent who had questioned their tickets smiled warmly at him, scanned his boarding pass without hesitation, and welcomed him aboard. This doesn't make sense, Luna whispered to her sister. Our tickets are real. Dad bought them himself. Arya nodded, feeling a knot forming in her stomach. She'd heard stories about things like this happening, but she'd never experienced it herself. She wanted to believe there was just some simple mistake, some computer glitch that would be resolved in a few minutes. But as they stood there watching passenger after passenger board the plane, including several other first-class travelers who looked nothing like them, a different feeling began to creep in. A feeling that this wasn't about computer problems or ticket verification. The agent continued processing passengers, occasionally glancing over at the twins but not calling them back to the podium. The girls could see their plane through the window, and they knew that once everyone boarded, it would be too late. Should we say something? Arya asked quietly. Before Luna could answer, the gate agent's radio crackled with some kind of message they couldn't hear clearly. The woman picked up her phone and made a quick call, speaking in a low voice while looking in their direction. The twins stood there, feeling more confused and worried with each passing minute, wondering what exactly was happening and why their simple trip to visit colleges had suddenly become so complicated. 20 minutes had passed since the gate agent told Arya and Luna to step aside, and the twins were getting more worried by the minute. They watched as the line of passengers grew shorter and shorter, with people continuing to board the plane while they stood off to the side like they were in some kind of timeout. "Excuse me," Luna finally said, walking back to the podium where the agent was still processing passengers. "How much longer will this take? The plane is almost finished boarding." The agent looked up with an expression that seemed more annoyed than helpful. "I told you I'm checking something in the system. You'll need to wait." "But what exactly are you checking?" Arya asked, joining her sister at the podium. "Our tickets are valid. We have our IDs. What's the problem?" Instead of answering their questions, the agent picked up her phone and made another call. The twins could only hear bits and pieces of the conversation, but they caught words like suspicious and verification needed. Suspicious? Arya felt her heart start beating faster. There was nothing suspicious about two teenagers flying to New York to visit colleges. Nothing suspicious about their tickets, their IDs, or anything else about them. "Next passenger," the agent called out, completely ignoring the twins' questions. A woman with two small children approached the podium. She was clearly stressed, juggling diaper bags and trying to keep her kids calm. Her boarding passes were crumpled from being stuffed in her purse, and one of her children was crying loudly. "So sorry," the woman said breathlessly. "It's been a crazy morning." The gate agent smiled warmly at her. "No problem at all. Let me get you and the little ones on board." She scanned the messy boarding passes without any extra scrutiny and waved the family through. Luna grabbed Arya's arm. "Did you see that?" Her tickets were a mess, and the agent didn't question anything. More passengers continued boarding. A group of college students with backpacks and tired expressions from what looked like an all-night study session. An elderly man who needed extra time to walk down the jet bridge. A young couple arguing quietly about something while the agent processed their tickets. None of them were asked to step aside. None of them were told to wait while something was verified. None of them were treated like their presence on the plane was some kind of problem that needed to be solved. "This isn't right," Arya said, her voice getting louder than she intended. "We've been standing here for almost half an hour while everyone else boards the plane." The gate agent finally looked up from her computer screen. "I understand your frustration, but I need you to lower your voice. I'm following standard security procedures." "Security procedures for what?" Luna demanded. "We haven't done anything." "So wrong. We're just trying to get on a plane with tickets our father bought for us." "That's exactly what I'm checking," the agent replied. "How these tickets were purchased?" The twins stared at her in disbelief. How the tickets were purchased? What did that even mean? Their father had bought them online using his credit card, just like millions of other people did every day. "My dad bought them with his credit card," Arya explained, trying to keep her voice calm.
He has the receipt.
I can call him right now if you need proof. The agent shook her head. That won't be necessary. I just need to complete my verification process. But there was something in her tone, something in the way she kept looking at them, that made it clear this wasn't really about verification at all. This was about something else entirely. By now, other passengers waiting to board had started noticing the situation. Some were openly staring at the twins, whispering to each other and pointing. A few people were even taking out their phones, though the girls couldn't tell if they were just checking the time or actually recording what was happening. Final boarding call for Flight 447 to LaGuardia, announced a voice over the intercom. All remaining passengers should board immediately. The twins looked at each other with panic in their eyes. Final boarding call meant the plane was about to leave. If they didn't get on soon, they'd miss their flight entirely. They'd miss their college visits. They'd miss everything they'd been planning for months. We need to get on that plane, Luna said, her voice shaking slightly. Our college interviews are tomorrow morning. The gate agent glanced at her computer screen, then back at the girls. I'm going to need you to speak with airport security. Security? Arya's voice came out higher than usual. Why do we need to speak with security? We haven't done anything wrong. But the agent was already picking up her radio, speaking into it with words the twins couldn't quite make out. Within minutes, 2 security officers appeared, walking toward the gate with serious expressions on their faces. The remaining passengers in the boarding area were definitely paying attention now. Conversation stopped. People turned to stare. Phone cameras were definitely recording now, though the twins were too focused on their own situation to really notice. Are you Arya and Luna? One of the security officers asked. He was a tall man with graying hair and a kind face, but his presence still made the situation feel much more serious than it had just moments before. Yes. Sir? Both girls answered at the same time. We need to ask you a few questions about your travel today, the officer said. Could you come with us? Questions about what? Luna asked. We're just trying to board our flight. We have valid tickets and valid IDs. The second security officer, a younger woman with short brown hair, stepped forward. We understand this is frustrating, but we need to follow certain procedures when there are questions about ticket authenticity. Our tickets aren't fake, Arya said, her voice getting stronger despite her fear. Our father bought them. We can prove it. That's what we're going to help you do, the first officer said, but we need to do it away from the gate area. The twins looked back at their plane, knowing that every minute they spent answering questions was a minute closer to missing their flight. They could see the jet bridge still connected to the aircraft, but they also knew that could change at any moment. How long will this take? Luna asked. Our plane is about to leave. That depends on how quickly we can resolve the questions about your tickets, the female officer replied. As they were led away from the gate, both girls couldn't help but think about all the other passengers who had boarded without any questions at all. Passengers whose tickets looked exactly like theirs. Passengers who were probably settling into their seats right now while Arya and Luna were being treated like criminals for trying to take a trip to visit colleges. The gate agent watched them walk away, then immediately picked up her phone to make another call. Behind them, the few remaining passengers hurried to board the plane, casting curious glances at the situation they were leaving behind. The twins had no idea that their simple college visit trip was about to become something much bigger than they ever could have imagined. The security office was a small, windowless room with gray walls and uncomfortable plastic chairs. Arya and Luna sat across from the 2 officers at a metal table, feeling like they were in some kind of police interrogation instead of just trying to catch a flight to New York. Let's start from the beginning, said Officer Rodriguez, the older man with graying hair. How did you acquire these first-class tickets? Arya took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Our father bought them for us online. We're going to New York to visit colleges. What's your father's name? Asked Officer Chen, the younger woman, as she typed notes on her computer. David Williams, Luna replied. He bought the tickets with his credit card about 2 weeks ago. Officer Rodriguez leaned back in his chair. First-class tickets are expensive. What does your father do for work? The twins looked at each other. It was a strange question, but they answered honestly. He works in aviation, Arya said. He runs a company that works with airlines. What kind of company? Officer Chen pressed. I'm not exactly sure of all the details, Luna admitted. He travels a lot for work and deals with different airlines. He's always been busy with meetings and phone calls about airplane stuff. The officers exchanged a look that the twins didn't quite understand. Officer Rodriguez picked up his radio and spoke quietly into it, stepping away from the table so the girls couldn't hear what he was saying. Meanwhile, through the small window in the door, Arya could see their gate in the distance. Her heart sank as she watched the jet bridge being pulled away from their plane. They'd missed their flight. "Our plane is leaving," she said, pointing toward the window. Officer Chen glanced over and nodded. "There are other flights to New York throughout the day. Let's focus on resolving this situation first." "But our college interviews are tomorrow morning," Luna said, her voice cracking slightly. "We've been planning this trip for months. The schools are expecting us. I understand this is frustrating," Officer Chen replied, "but we need to verify that these tickets were purchased legitimately." Officer Rodriguez returned to the table, his expression more serious than before. "We're going to need to contact your father directly." "Fine," Arya said, pulling out her phone. "I'll call him right now." But before she could dial, Officer Rodriguez held up his hand. "We'll make the call from here using our official line." The twins watched as he dialed the number they provided. The phone rang several times before going to voicemail. "He's probably in a meeting," Luna said quickly. "He has meetings all the time." "You can try again in a few minutes." Officer Chen made more notes on her computer. "What's the name of your father's company?" "Williams Aviation Group," Arya answered, remembering seeing it on business cards and documents around their house. Officer Rodriguez stopped typing and looked up sharply. "Williams Aviation Group?" "Yes," Luna said. "Do you know it?" Instead of answering, Officer Rodriguez stepped away from the table again and made another radio call, this time speaking in an even more hushed tone than before. The girls sat in confused silence, wondering why the mention of their father's company had caused such a reaction. They'd always known their dad had an important job, but they'd never paid much attention to the specific details of what he did. "Can we try calling him again?" Arya asked when Officer Rodriguez returned to the table. "Actually," Officer Rodriguez said, his tone completely different now, "I think there might have been some kind of misunderstanding." Officer Chen looked at him with surprise. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Rodriguez continued, now looking directly at the twins, "that perhaps we moved too quickly on this situation." Before anyone could respond, the radio on Officer Chen's belt crackled with an urgent message. She answered it, and even though she tried to speak quietly, the twins could hear someone on the other end speaking rapidly and with obvious concern. "Roger that," Officer Chen said into the radio. "We'll handle it immediately." She looked at her partner, then at the twins, her expression now showing something that looked almost like worry. "Is everything okay?" Luna asked. Officer Rodriguez cleared his throat. "We're going to try reaching your father again." This time, when they dialed the number, David Williams answered on the first ring. "Hello?" His voice came through the speakerphone clearly. "Mr. Williams, this is Officer Rodriguez with airport security at Chicago O'Hare. We have your daughters here, and there are some questions about their airline tickets." There was a brief pause before David Williams responded, and when he did, his voice was calm but had an edge to it that the twins recognized. It was the voice their father used when he was trying very hard to control his temper. "Questions about what exactly?" "Well, sir, there were concerns about the authenticity of their first-class tickets." Another pause. Longer this time. "Officer Rodriguez," David Williams said slowly. "My daughters are traveling to New York for college visits. I purchased their tickets myself with my credit card through the airline's official website." "What exactly is the nature of these concerns?" Officer Rodriguez looked uncomfortable. "Sir, it's just standard procedure when questions arise about—" "What questions?" David Williams interrupted, his voice getting sharper. "Who raised these questions? And why are my daughters in a security office instead of on their plane?" The twins had never heard their father sound quite like this before. He was always calm and professional, even when he was upset about something. But now there was something in his voice that made it clear he was more than just upset. "Dad," Arya said, leaning toward the phone, "they made us miss our flight." "They what?" The temperature in David Williams's voice dropped by several degrees. Officer Chen jumped into the conversation. "Mr. Williams, I want to assure you that we're just following standard security protocols." "Standard protocols for what?" their father demanded. "My daughters are honor students traveling to visit Ivy League schools. They have valid tickets, valid identification. and they've never been in trouble in their lives. So I'll ask again, what exactly triggered these protocols? The room fell silent except for the hum of the air conditioning. The twins could practically feel their father's anger through the phone. And they could see that both officers were becoming increasingly uncomfortable. "Sir," Officer Rodriguez finally said, "perhaps we can resolve this quickly and get your daughters on the next available flight." "Oh, we're going to resolve this," David Williams replied, his voice now deadly calm. "But first I want to understand exactly what happened here, and I want to speak with whoever made the decision to detain my daughters." Officer Chen picked up her radio again, speaking into it with obvious urgency. Within seconds, someone was responding with what sounded like very important information. The twins watched as both officers' faces changed completely, going from official authority to something that looked almost like panic. "Mr. Williams," Officer Rodriguez said carefully, "we're going to have some additional personnel join us in just a moment." "Good," their father replied, "because I'm about to make some phone calls of my own." As the twins sat in the small security office, watching the adults around them react to their father's name and company with increasing alarm, they began to realize that maybe they didn't know as much about their dad's job as they thought they did. And judging by the expressions on the officers' faces, they were about to find out just how important David Williams really was. The security office door burst open just 5 minutes after their father's phone call, and suddenly the small room was filled with people. The airport manager, a tall woman in a navy blue suit, entered first, followed by 2 men in expensive-looking business attire, and someone in an airline uniform with enough gold stripes to suggest he was pretty important. "Mr. Williams," the airport manager said into the phone, which was still on speaker, "this is Patricia Morrison, the airport manager. I want to personally apologize for this situation." "Ms. Morrison," David Williams replied, his voice still carrying that edge of controlled anger, "I appreciate you joining the call, but I'm more interested in understanding how this happened in the first place." Arya and Luna watched as all the adults in the room exchanged nervous glances. One of the men in business suits was typing frantically on his phone, while the airline official kept checking his watch and looking toward the door like he wanted to escape. "Sir," Ms. Morrison continued, "there seems to have been a misunderstanding at the gate level. Our staff was following what they believed to be proper verification procedures." "Verification procedures?" Their father's voice came through the speaker with a dangerous calm. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly. My daughters presented valid first-class tickets and proper identification, and your staff decided they needed additional verification?" The room fell silent. Everyone seemed to be waiting for someone else to answer the question. "Dad," Luna said, leaning toward the phone, "the gate agent kept saying our tickets were suspicious, but she let everyone else board without any questions." "I see," David Williams said slowly. "And what exactly made their tickets appear suspicious?" More uncomfortable silence. Officer Rodriguez cleared his throat. "Sir, perhaps we should discuss the details privately." "No," their father replied firmly. "I think we should discuss them right here with my daughters present, since they're the ones who were subjected to whatever procedures you felt were necessary." The airport manager stepped forward. "Mr. Williams, I want to assure you that we take these matters very seriously, and we will conduct a full investigation." "Ms. Morrison," David Williams said, "do you know what Williams Aviation Group does?" The question seemed to make everyone in the room even more nervous. "Yes, sir," she replied quietly. "You're one of our largest contractors for ground services and cargo operations." "That's correct," their father continued. "We handle approximately 40% of the ground operations for your airline at 12 major airports, including Chicago O'Hare. Our contract with your company is worth approximately $50 million annually." The twins looked at each other with wide eyes. $50 million. They knew their dad had an important job, but they'd never imagined it was that important. "Now," their father continued, "I'm going to ask you again, what exactly made my daughter's tickets appear suspicious to your staff?" One of the men in business suits finally spoke up. "Mr. Williams, this is Robert Chen, Regional Director for the airline. I want to personally guarantee that we will make this right." "Mr. Chen," their father replied, "I'm not interested in guarantees right now. I'm interested in answers." The airline official with the gold stripes finally stepped forward. "Sir, this is Captain Brooks. I've been reviewing the gate agent's report, and I believe there was a serious error in judgment." "What kind of error in judgment?" Captain Brooks looked around the room before answering. Sir, it appears the gate agent made assumptions about your daughters based on factors that should never influence boarding procedures. The room fell completely silent except for the hum of the air conditioning. The twins could feel their hearts beating faster as they began to understand what Captain Brooks was trying not to say directly. I see, their father said, his voice now colder than they'd ever heard it. And where is this gate agent now? She's been removed from duty pending a full investigation, Ms. Morrison said quickly. That's a start, David Williams replied. But I think we need to discuss more than just one employee's error in judgment. I think we need to discuss the systemic issues that allowed this to happen in the first place. Arya raised her hand tentatively. Excuse me, but can someone please explain what's happening? We still don't understand why we were treated differently than everyone else. The adults in the room looked at each other uncomfortably, clearly not wanting to have this conversation in front of the teenagers. Arya, their father's voice came through the speaker more gently now. What happened to you and your sister should never happen to anyone. The gate agent made assumptions about you based on how you look, not based on your tickets or your behavior. Luna felt her stomach drop. You mean because we're black? I believe so, yes, their father replied honestly. The twins sat in stunned silence. They'd heard about things like this happening, but they'd never experienced it themselves. They'd grown up in a comfortable suburb, attended good schools, and generally lived in a world where they felt accepted and valued. But our tickets were real, Arya said quietly. We weren't doing anything wrong. No, sweetheart, you weren't, their father confirmed. You were doing exactly what you were supposed to do. Mr. Chen stepped forward again. Mr. Williams, I want to personally ensure that your daughters get to New York today, in first class, with full accommodations for the inconvenience. That's appreciated, Mr. Chen, their father replied. But I think we're past the point of simply rebooking a flight. Ms. Morrison looked puzzled. What do you mean, sir? I mean that this incident is going to require a much more comprehensive response, David Williams said. My daughters were humiliated and discriminated against by your staff. Other passengers witnessed it. Some of them recorded it. This isn't just about two teenagers missing a flight anymore. The man who had been typing on his phone looked up with alarm. Recorded? That's what happens when you single out two young women at a busy airport gate, their father replied. People notice. People record. People share on social media. Officer Chen was suddenly very interested in her radio, which had been buzzing with messages for the past few minutes. Sir, she said, we're getting reports that videos of the incident are already being shared online. The room erupted in quiet but urgent conversations as the adults realized that what had started as a gate agent's poor decision was quickly becoming a public relations disaster. Dad, Luna said, what happens now? Now, their father replied. We're going to make sure this never happens to anyone else. But first I need to see my daughters. I'm about 20 minutes away from the airport. You're coming here? Arya asked, surprised. Of course I'm coming there, their father replied. Nobody treats my daughters like this and thinks it's just going to be quietly resolved with a different flight. As the adults in the room began making frantic phone calls and having hushed conversations about damage control, Arya and Luna realized that their simple college visit trip had turned into something much bigger. Their father wasn't just upset about what had happened to them. He was angry about what it represented, and he was in a position to do something about it. The twins had no idea that within the next hour their story would be trending on social media, and their father's response would change how the airline industry thought about discrimination and accountability. David Williams arrived at the airport exactly 23 minutes after his phone call ended, and his entrance was nothing like what Arya and Luna had expected. Instead of walking through the terminal like a regular passenger,
He came through a private entrance.
with his own security team and 3 people in business suits carrying briefcases, the twins watched through the security office window as their father strode down the hallway with the kind of confidence that made everyone around him step aside. They'd seen him in business mode before, but this was different. This was their dad as someone who commanded serious respect and wielded serious power. Girls, he said as he entered the room, immediately going to hug both daughters. Are you okay? We're fine, Dad, Luna said, though her voice was shaky. Just confused about everything that's happening. David Williams looked around the room at all the airline and airport officials who had gathered. His expression was calm, but the twins could see the anger still burning in his eyes. "Ms. Morrison," he said to the airport manager, "I assume you've had time to review exactly what happened at Gate B12 this morning." "Yes, sir," she replied nervously. "We've spoken with multiple witnesses and reviewed security footage. It's clear that your daughters were treated inappropriately." "Inappropriately is one way to put it," their father replied. "Discriminatorily would be more accurate." One of the men who had come with David Williams opened his briefcase and pulled out several folders. "Mr. Williams," he said, "we've documented 17 similar incidents involving this airline in the past 18 months. Arya and Luna looked at each other in shock. 17 other families had gone through something like this? Mr. Chen, the regional director, looked pale. "Sir, I wasn't aware of any pattern of incidents." "That's exactly the problem," David Williams replied. "These incidents happen. They get quietly resolved with apologies and vouchers, and nothing changes. The same attitudes and the same training failures continue to impact passengers." Ms. Morrison stepped forward. "Mr. Williams, what can we do to make this right?" Their father walked to the window and looked out at the busy airport terminal. "Making this right isn't just about my daughters anymore. It's about ensuring this doesn't happen to anyone else's daughters." He turned back to face the room. "Here's what's going to happen. First, Williams Aviation Group is suspending all contracts with your airline, effective immediately, pending a comprehensive review of your discrimination policies and training procedures." The room went completely silent. The twins knew that $50 million was a lot of money, but seeing the reactions of all the adults made them realize just how serious their father's decision was. "Sir," Mr. Chen said desperately, "surely we can work something out." "We can," David Williams agreed. "But it's going to require real changes, not just apologies. I want a complete overhaul of your customer service training, with specific focus on unconscious bias and discrimination prevention. I want clear consequences for employees who profile passengers, and I want regular auditing of these procedures." The airport manager was typing frantically on her phone. "Mr. Williams, I'm authorized to agree to those terms immediately." "Good," their father replied. "But there's more. I want this incident to become a case study in your training programs. I want other airlines to learn from what happened here. And I want my daughters to be part of developing the new training materials." Arya looked up in surprise. "Us?" "Yes, you," their father said, looking at both twins. "You experienced this firsthand. Your voices matter in making sure it doesn't happen to other young people." Luna felt a mix of nervousness and excitement. "What would we have to do?" "Tell your story," their father replied. "Help develop training scenarios. Make sure the people who work for airlines understand the real impact of their assumptions and decisions." One of the legal advisors whispered something to David Williams, who nodded and turned back to the airline officials. "There's one more thing," he said. "The gate agent who started this situation needs more than just a suspension. She needs comprehensive retraining before she ever works with passengers again. And if she's not willing to complete that training and demonstrate real understanding of what she did wrong, she shouldn't be working in customer service." Ms. Morrison nodded quickly. "Absolutely. We're committed to ensuring this never happens again." "We'll see," their father replied. "Actions matter more than promises." Over the next hour, the twins watched as their father and his team negotiated a detailed agreement that went far beyond just getting them on another flight to New York. They were witnessing their dad use his business influence to create real change. "For other travelers, by the way," Mr. Chen said as the meeting was wrapping up. "We have a first-class flight leaving for New York in 2 hours. We'd be honored to have your daughters aboard with full accommodations for the delay." David Williams looked at his daughters. "Do you still want to visit those colleges?" "Yes," both girls said at the same time. "Then you'll go," their father said. "But you're not going alone." "I'm coming with you. This experience has reminded me that I should be more involved in helping you choose your futures." As they prepared to leave the security office, Luna had a question. "Dad, why didn't you ever tell us how important your company was?" Their father smiled for the first time since arriving at the airport. "Because I wanted you to grow up understanding your own worth, not mine. What happened today was wrong regardless of who your father is or what company he runs. Every person deserves to be treated with dignity and respect. But being your daughters did help us fix this," Arya pointed out. "This time, yes," their father agreed. "But that's exactly why we need to change the system." Not everyone has a father who can threaten to cancel $50 million contracts. Everyone should have the same protection from discrimination. 3 months later, the video of Arya and Luna being questioned at the gate had been viewed over 2 million times on social media. The airline had implemented the new training program they'd promised, with the twins helping to develop scenarios based on their experience. The sisters ended up choosing colleges that were only 2 hours apart from each other, and they both decided to study subjects that would help them continue fighting discrimination in different ways. Arya focused on civil rights law, while Luna chose business with a concentration in diversity and inclusion. Their father had kept his word about the contract suspension, only reinstating it after the airline demonstrated real changes in their procedures and attitudes. The gate agent who had profiled them completed an extensive retraining program and publicly apologized, eventually becoming an advocate for better discrimination training in the airline industry. But the most important change was that other families who faced similar situations now had a precedent to point to. The incident had become a catalyst for broader conversations about unconscious bias in the travel industry, and several other airlines voluntarily updated their training programs to prevent similar incidents. "You know what's funny?" Luna said to her sister as they sat in their actual first-class seats on their way to college visits 6 months later. "What's that?" Arya replied. "We originally thought this trip was just about visiting colleges and choosing our futures," Luna said. "But it ended up being about so much more than that." Arya nodded, looking out the window at the clouds below. Sometimes the most important journeys are the ones you never planned to take. Their father, sitting across the aisle, smiled as he listened to his daughter's talk. The incident at the airport had been painful and infuriating, but it had also shown him just how strong and thoughtful his daughters were. They'd taken a terrible experience and helped turn it into positive change for others. As their plane soared toward New York, the twins felt ready to face whatever challenges their futures might hold. They'd learned that they had voices that mattered, allies who would support them, and the power to create change when they encountered injustice. Most importantly, they'd learned that sometimes the worst moments can become the foundation for the most meaningful victories.